Welcome to the Tick Tock Podcast. The clock is always ticking, so let's synchronize our watches and dive in. I'm your host, Callie Brigham, and I'm here to help you make time for what matters. Hey friends, welcome back to another episode. Before we kick off into the topic for today, I just want to say I've been getting some really special, really fun, really put a smile on my face DMs and tags and stories and posts of where you guys are listening to the podcast. I feel like I'm going on lots of walks with you. A lot of you are walking and taking me with you. Some in the mountains, some around the parks by your house, some while you're on your lunch break, some early in the morning. I can hear the birds chirping. Anyways, it just fills my heart because for those of you that may not know, maybe you haven't been here from the beginning, you can always go back and binge listen to all of them. But this podcast started with me on a walk. And I had just gotten back from a trip from out of town. I was just trying to think about reentry when it came to my schedule and what that looked like. And because of that, I just on my stories one day just started walking where I live. It had become a little bit of a new part of my routine. Now it is like ingrained in me. I have to get that. I've walked in thunderstorms. I'm going to do it. But that's really how this whole thing came to be and just starting to have conversations. So I was walking and talking about time, and time ticks away. So it was a TikTok walk. So keep those coming. Always tag me in your story. And even if you don't listen to me while you're walking, maybe you are getting ready in the morning, maybe you're cooking dinner, maybe you're on your commute. I just love getting to spend time with you. And I love also having our tribe, our TikTok tribe, which is our community on Facebook. We have some accountability happening in there right now. So don't be scared. Don't be scared. You can do it. So join our TikTok tribe. The link for that is in the show notes. You can search for it as well. And not only that in our TikTok tribe, but we're going to have a little giveaway, and it has to do with today's topic. So you're going to want to be in the group so you can be part of the giveaway. So stay tuned for that. Well, speaking of the tribe, speaking of talking and communicating and listening, one topic comes up pretty frequently, whether it is just in one-on-one conversations with our mastermind or collectively. And that is the importance of what happens first thing in the morning. So that morning routine, the morning rhythm, that seems to play a really big role in how the rest of the day goes. It's kind of like how it starts is how it's going to go. And if everything flows really nicely, if everybody's in a good mood in the morning, if you wake up on time, if you implement those things that we kind of know that we're supposed to do first thing in the morning to kick things off, then it's a good day. And if it doesn't, if we wake up late, if, we lock our keys in our car, I mean, does anybody do that anymore? Anyways, then everything falls apart and you might as well just wait for tomorrow. Well, so I thought, okay, let's talk about it. Let's go there. Let's talk about some success habits in the morning. Let's kick things off. But the more I started to think about outlining that, the more I realized something super critical, like mission critical. And that was that having a good morning routine actually starts, are you ready? The night before. It's your evening routine that's actually going to set the tone for your morning. How deep is that, right? I know, bells and whistles. You're like, yeah, I probably knew that already. But I don't know about you. I need to be reminded of that if I do want to start my day off well, then I actually need to make sure that my night before, so whatever happens 6, 7, 8, 10 hours prior is going to set the stage for a successful morning. So we're going to begin with the end in mind. We're going to talk about the bookends of the day, but we're going to like flip it and we're going to reverse it and we're going to start kind of at the end of your day. And that's where we're going to go today. So we're going to talk about evening habits and productivity and well-being when it comes to that. So as I was thinking through, I, first of all, was thinking, wouldn't it be great if we were just kids again? I mean, if somebody said, hey, It's time to turn off the TV, or it's time to shut this things down. It's time to get in the bath. It's time to read a book, and it's time to go to bed. Lights out. Like, how much did we resist that as a kid, right? No, all the things that we didn't want to do as a kid, take naps. Now we're like, please, God, let me take a nap, if only for 20 minutes. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to treat ourselves well. We're going to be the boss of ourselves, and we're going to start to set some ideas in place, some habits in place, so that we do have that, whether it's a little voice or it's my voice in your head saying, time to turn it off, time to prep for a great day tomorrow. And then I was thinking about how kids are too. I remember Braden, I guess this is probably oldest child deal, but he was pretty good about once he got in bed, he would stay in bed. I mean, there was an occasion that he would get out. I will say both of my kids were little ninjas when they were smaller. Are yours where they were supposed to sleep in their room, in their own room, in their own bed. So, I mean, for a long time, it was like in the middle of the night, they were so sneaky, stealthy. They just slip right in there. And of course, they'd take up the whole bed with their elbows and toes and knees and everything in your face all night long, flip flopping. But you're so tired. It's like, the effort to get them up, put them back in bed. You're like, whatever. Right. So he was pretty good though about staying in bed. Maddie, on the other hand, no surprise, second child. Here we go. Not labeling her. No labels, Maddie, but still, Josh and I would have our evening routine and we'd get the kids to bed fairly early. I think kids need lots of sleep at night. So we get the kids to bed fairly early. And both of us being self-employed for most of their childhood, we would probably have some things to do. Maybe we'd pull out laptops or we'd, start to work a little bit, but we would kind of have our show that we would watch. And just so you know, by the way, there comes a stage. I have a 13 and 15-year-old. There comes a stage where I'm going to bed now before they are. So Josh and I don't have that time anymore to sit and just like kids are in bed. No, they're up. And I'm like, turn the lights off when you go to bed. Make sure the doors are locked, right? What in the world has happened? Anyhow, but this was prior to that. So we would sit on the couch and Maddie girl would get out of bed and she thought she was so sneaky and she would come sit on the stairs. And like through the stairs, you can kind of see down to where the living room is and where the TV was. And we could hear her. Okay. She's not that subtle. We could hear her and she'd slip down. And at first she'd just kind of sit on the stairs. And then she got smarter and she'd sort of lay flat. Kind of like a kid, like peekaboo, if you can't see me, or if I can't see you, you can't see me. So she'd lay flat. And all we had to do was yell out. We go, Maddie. And she'd go, yes. She couldn't help herself. She always told on herself. She didn't just lay there quietly. She'd be like, yes. Like, go to bed. Okay. So whether you are a toddler getting tucked in, whether you're more of a resistant teenager, or now you're the one that gets everybody else ready, and then you tend to stay up way too late because that's the only quiet time, I hear ya. The deal is, though, success is found so often in the routines we create, and those consistent evening habits will lead to extraordinary results for your next day. So, are you pumped? Are you excited? Are you ready to go to bed? So, I did a little research, and there was like maybe the top 10 things that successful, in quotes, women do at night, humans do at night before they go to bed for a great next day. So I took those 10 and I sort of narrowed it down to what I think are maybe the five things that we're going to talk about today that will really give you a good routine for your tomorrow. And sometimes when I say these things, I'm like, yeah, don't we all know these things? And I don't think that's really the point. The point is, most of the time we know these things, we just might need to be either reminded or think a new thought with them. So the first one is obviously the the thing that we want to focus on, the significance, the first step is that it is preparation for rest. The whole idea of your evening routine, because we want to, like, why are we doing this? Is to help you wind down. Wind down from the day's activities, prepare your body and mind for restorative sleep. I remember reading an article, I think it was Ariana Huffington, the founder of the Huffington Post, and she got so deathly ill that her physicians, her medical staff that was taking care of her, and her herself came to the conclusion that her lack of sleep was actually killing her. And so we could talk about the studies and the health effects negatively that happen when we don't get enough sleep. So this is our opportunity to just treat ourselves well. And one of the best things we can do is get enough sleep. So, this is a preparation for that. So, what do? We want to engage in some calming activities before bed. Maybe it's reading, maybe it's journaling. And I know you guys keep asking me, there's something coming. Okay, patience, something coming. Maybe it's journaling, maybe it is meditation or prayer. But the whole idea for your evening is to signal to your body that it's time to relax, it's time to unwind. Some of the things that I do is as the sun starts to set, I'm not ready for bed quite then yet, although later in the summer, I might be. I turn on the lamps. Like I turn off overhead lights and I turn on the lamps. It's sort of like this progression. It's this transition of the day. So I turn on the lamps, turn off the overhead lights. Maybe you've got your comfy clothes, your PJs that you slip into. And maybe girlfriends, it's time to get rid of that like ratty t-shirt and it's time to like be a grown up and have something that feels luxurious and feels wonderful. You can find dupes if you don't want to get all the expensive things. Maybe it's lighting a candle. These are all triggers. I want you to think of your evening as a trigger for yourself to relax so that you can be your best the next day. Wouldn't that be a cool way of looking at our evening? Okay, here comes the giveaway. One of the things that I've started doing because I need to have some of these things as habitual so I don't have to think about it. And I also want something that is going to touch on several different points, like several different senses that help me prep for rest. So sometimes I'll have like an herbal tea at night with some honey in it. I do work virtually at night a couple nights a week. So oftentimes I'll do this right after. So this is my trigger. Okay, I'm done for work for the evening. And now I am like getting into my Zen relaxation mode. So sometimes I'll do that. But my favorite new thing to do right now, and actually I can link this in the show notes, is this healthy-ish hot chocolate. So, I mean, who doesn't love like a really indulgent cup of hot cocoa with all the whipped cream and everything in it? But I probably shouldn't have that every night. That's kind of beside the point. So I've been drinking this moringa, Moringa, moringa hot chocolate. And here's the key to it. You have to have one of the little frothers. So I just have little battery operated hand frother. I'll link to these things in the show notes. And that's what I've been doing, usually like Monday through Friday, Monday through Thursday at night so that I can start to signal to myself. And I'll snuggle up on the couch with a big comfy blanket. I've got my lamp on, and maybe I'm doing some of these last things just to prep my body. So I'm going to do a giveaway for my favorite moringa hot cocoa, a box of that, and the frother to one of our special TikTok tribe friends in there. So make sure that you're in there. So the first one is just to understand this is my preparation for rest. That's what successful people understand about their evening. The second thing is you can use this time for reflection and planning. So it kind of has both, right? So I'm not just thinking about the day, but I'm also thinking like what that just passed, but I'm thinking about what tomorrow is going to look like. So this can be an opportunity to reflect on your day's events, celebrate your achievements, identify areas for improvement. You can review your accomplishments, set your intentions for the next day. I know that's another little tease for this journal situation that's coming and really create a sense of purpose and direction. One of the ways I love to do this is I have a 5-year gratitude journal. And it is one of those things where there's like 3 or 4 lines, not much at all. And I can always think of something to be grateful for. It's a bit of a diary too. So the other day I texted my sister-in-law. She's a sister to me because I'm an only child. So I have 2 great sister-in-laws. And it was the 3-year anniversary of her cancer diagnosis. And she is so healthy and she's doing amazing. But that was the day that we got the call. And I wrote in my gratitude journal that I was so grateful for her and for our family and this healing journey she was going to be on. So I could look back too. So it's not for me just about gratefulness for that day, but it's gratefulness for years past. So I could look back and I could message her and I'm like, hey, Sissy, I'm so proud of you and everything that you went through. So I love a good 5-year gratitude journal. You know what? If I still have the link for that, I can link it in the show notes, but you can really find anything on Amazon. And speaking of that, One of my cousins is married to an ultra marathoner. Okay, so like he ran 100 miles. This was a couple years back. They run through the night. I mean, they're literally like eating hamburgers at 2 in the morning because you got to fuel yourself so much. So they're running through the dead of night 100 miles. Isn't that insane? And in preparation for this, he had a mentor that was guiding him. And he said, hey, listen, there's going to come a time in the middle of the night. I mean, that's another symbolism, right? But there's going to come a time in the middle of the night where you are done. You're exhausted. You think you can't do this anymore. And he said, I want you to trigger something that you'll be able to do knowing that the dead of night is coming. So you've got to pre-decide. You've got to pre-prepare for this. And so my cousin's husband, Craig is his name, he decided that he was going to defer to grateful. So in the middle of the night, when his body is like done, he's all alone, he doesn't know if or think that he can do it. He decided he was going to start to talk about what he was grateful for. Grateful for family, grateful for friends, you name it. So at the finish line the next day, 100 miles later, he's got some buddies there. He's got my cousin and their kids, and they're there at the finish line waiting for him. And he crosses the finish line, and they're like, dude, how do you feel? And he said, without even thinking, he said, I feel grateful. So, how amazing is that thought? Setting grateful thoughts in your mind before you go to bed all night long, subconsciously thinking about them. How are you going to feel the next morning? And thank goodness we're not running hundreds of miles in the middle of the night, although some of us do feel like that as we're stressed out and trying to sleep. And we're going to talk about that next. But I just thought that was a beautiful way and a great reminder of setting that grateful tone at night. Okay, so first one was it's preparing you for rest. This is what successful people understand about their evening routine. Second is it's a reflection and planning time. Third is it's a stress reduction time. It's time to reduce that stress. So, what can we do? Well, we can have deep breathing exercises. You can have gentle stretches if you want to. One of my girlfriends, Christy, she's so brilliant. She taught us how to breathe one time. And of course, you guys know Christy. When I talk about my friends, you're like, oh, I know her. She was on our episode really towards the beginning, and she talked about the different types of time and energy. This was episode 11. But we had an exercise with her one time where we were literally just to breathe. Like breathe in. Why don't we all do it together? Okay. So breathe in. Let's just do like 3 seconds breathing in. Breathe in through your nose and hold it and then breathe out. I mean, when's the last time we actually would breathe? I need to have Christy back on because she can do a whole training on our breath. Could you imagine slowing your breathing down, taking a minute before you go to bed so you can alleviate that tension? You can be more in a place of well-being. I heard someone say an evening routine is like a bedtime story for adults. It helps you transition from the chaos of the day to the peace of the night. Not only under that, but of course, is the infamous unplugging from technology. And experts say at least an hour before bedtime. So, is that what we want to keep ourselves accountable to in the TikTok tribe? That's probably a good idea. There's so many things we could do, but what if we all promised to turn our phone on do not disturb, or there's lots of different apps for that, right? At least an hour before bedtime, we're done. What a couple of the other things I've been doing, I don't know if you've noticed, those of you that follow me on social, but I've started practicing my violin. Now, I've been a violinist since I was 5 years old, trained classically, but then for many, many, many years, I just would play like in the worship band or I'd play for a variety of things, but certainly not daily practice anymore and certainly not practicing sonatas or anything too. But I got inspired because I went to the symphony a week or so ago. So I've been pulling out my violin and at night, just 15, 20 minutes, totally not on social. I'll video myself just a little bit to keep myself accountable, like maybe 20 seconds worth. And I'm just going to a whole different place, a place in my mind, a place in my body. I'm kind of connecting the two in a really special way. So, what could that look like? Maybe you play piano. Maybe you play music. Maybe you play what like they used to say, maybe you play the radio. Maybe you get on your Spotify. Maybe you have a Spotify playlist that is helping reduce that stress. Maybe it's your skincare routine or other self-care things. Maybe you take a bath. Maybe you have a mask. Maybe you do those things as well that again are just symbolizing it is time to release the things that you're going to leave in today. Number 4 is setting the tone for tomorrow. So we understand, successful people, that the way you end your day, as we've been mentioning, sets the tone for tomorrow. So some of the things that could set your tone for tomorrow, we've already mentioned reading or journaling, because understanding that maybe the day didn't go well, but we can finish it well to create momentum for tomorrow. Again, that's why bookends are really important. We've kind of got a fresh start in the morning, but what leads to that fresh start? By finishing well the night before. Some of the things that I'll do to set the tone for tomorrow is I like to tuck my house into bed. I like to put my home to bed. I definitely have learned that having a clean home before tomorrow will always set the tone for tomorrow. So when the kids were little, we might take 10 minutes and put all the toys away. Now, very clearly, I understood that by about 7 o'clock the next morning with toddlers, all the toys were going to be back out. But there's nothing like coming down the stairs or leaving your bedroom and the house is clean for at least a hot minute. Maybe it is folding that laundry that's been sitting on your bed so that you can start off your next day having clean clothes. Maybe it's setting out your clothes for tomorrow. We're going to get to that in a second. But maybe it is starting the dishwasher. My mom has a friend, we were just talking about this very same thing, and she said every night, no matter how full it is, she starts her dishwasher so that the next morning she has clean dishes. Now, for me, I would probably like to set the dishwasher maybe right after dinner and then unload the dishwasher so I did not have to unload. I love a clean sink in the morning. And let me tell you, on one of our episodes, we talked about how long things take. And if something can take 20 seconds, 5 minutes or less. Why not do it now so that it will not take more time the next day? So, how can you set your tone for tomorrow? That's what I like to do. I'll fluff the pillows on the couch. I'll make sure that, you know, how we are with our home, our blankets that look like they just happen to be draped over super casually, but you like drape them on purpose. I will reset our dining room table, make sure the chairs are pushed in and the placemats are out, different things like that. I'll make sure that my desk, because I work from home, I'll make sure that my desk is prepared. I've got my notebook out for the next day. That is setting my tone for tomorrow so that there's not obstacles in the morning. And that leads me to number 5, enhancing productivity. So, a well planned evening routine can enhance your productivity by making sure that you've prioritized your not your taxes, although get those taxes done, your tasks, organize your thoughts, and set your goals for the next day. So, maybe that's meal prep. When the kids were little, we had some drawers that would have snacks in it that did not need to be refrigerated. So, they set out what their snacks were going to be for preschool or for school the next day, pre-deciding what are we going to have for breakfast or for lunch. We've talked about that before too. I would definitely have a routine where, like, every Monday when the kids were little, they had oatmeal. Every Tuesday we had eggs. Every Wednesday. So making sure that I had that laid out, making sure that we understood what we were going to have for the next day. Meal prepping could also be getting your crock pot ready. Laying out your clothes, already mentioned that. That will help reduce decision fatigue. And did we not love Miranda, episode 33? Oh my word, I have gotten the absolute best feedback from her. That is a fan favorite, and we're definitely going to be having more Miranda on. I already asked her. So I said, seasonally, will you come back, Miranda? Another thing I would do for in my business is that I would email myself my list for the next day. So remember how we talked about having a brain drain, having a weekly plan sheet, those types of things that we would do. Well, then I would narrow that down, have my list. I would actually email it to myself. So I would get it out of my head before I went to bed. And if you still don't, I recommend that you have a notebook by your bed. So, because remember, not your phone, you're not going to be on your phone, but a notebook where you can just jot down those last thoughts that are not letting you get to sleep. But I would email that to myself so that the next morning, the very first email in my inbox was like my boss told me what to do. So, as we wrap this up, remember that we're talking about habits and a habit audit back in episodes 18 and 20. This is going to be something that we want to develop habits in. But we have to backtrack to know what time these things need to happen. They're not going to happen by chance. So if you say, I want a full, let's be realistic, a full 7 hours. Wouldn't 8 or 9 be great? But a full 7 hours of sleep. Okay, based on that, let me backtrack. All right, that's the time, lights out. All right, let me backtrack from there. That's the time my phone gets unplugged. Let me backtrack from there. That's the time we're done with dinner. And, I know that there are one offs, you guys. I've got kids that are in everything you could imagine. And I understand late practices. I understand that some of you work different shifts. I get that. But you can still backtrack so that you can have these things that are intentional. Having that structured evening routine, getting that sleep quality, reducing that stress, that self care, that relaxation before bed, that is going to be the kicker. That evening routine being a sanctuary for yourself. That's going to be the deal. So, episode 32, we just talked about accountability, how we're going to start this practice. How would a week of having an evening routine, how would that feel? Let's kick that off first. Then we can talk about what we're going to do in the mornings. So, make sure you're in our Facebook group, our TikTok tribe. Let's have some weekly accountability for getting to and going to bed. Okay, because those are definitely different things. Like, it's one thing to get in bed, it's another thing to go to bed and then go to sleep. But let's have some accountability there. And I'd love to know, what are some things that you love about your evening routine? What are some things that you're going to change? So maybe you're going to start to have your gratitude journal at night. Maybe you're going to have, like I said, those comfy PJs or clean sheets that just signal to yourself it's time to relax. Maybe you make your list for the next day and you send them to yourself so you've got them out of your head and on paper. Maybe you have your moringa hot cocoa with me with a little frother in there so you feel fancy, but it's also just a time like a little one would have their last little sippy before they go to bed. Right? So we're going to treat ourselves kindly. We're going to treat ourselves well. We're going to have that bookend of the night before lead us into a beautiful, great start to the next day. All right, friends, thanks so much for being part of this incredible journey. When I do go to sleep and I do have sweet dreams, it is definitely about what we are doing and continuing to do together. So God bless you. Sweet dreams tonight, friends. I'll see you in the TikTok Tribe community. And don't forget, leave those reviews. I know we say it every week, but those are gold. Those are great gifts to me, and I love and appreciate you. God bless you. Thank you for joining me on the TikTok podcast. Please subscribe, rate, and leave a 5-star review. Your feedback fuels our mission to help you master your time. Set your alarm for our next episode, and until then, make every moment count.